It's my planet. It's your planet. It's our planet. It's mostly my planet. And on this planet, all our athletes do their talking on the court. Planet Hog. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Hello and welcome, and I hope everyone had a wonderful day. Um, you know, before we talk about tonight's subject, which has kind of been a long time coming, I'm not a big fan of this man. Spoiler alert. Um, and we'll get into all of that later on because once I unzip, it's not. I'm not gonna be able to get out everything else I was thinking about. So, um, anyway, and besides, we usually start on a lighter note. Today I was I was furthering my research on Hardee's. Yes, yes. And don't get me wrong, it was fantastic. And the ladies that were working there, like, it was taking forever. I didn't even know why. And then she was like, hey, there's only two of us here, and blah, blah, blah. It was in some small town in the middle of nowhere, but oh, man, that's. I mean, if you've ever been in the service industry, you understand that. You understand what it's like to get slammed, to get rushed, and then it's just you trying to bail out as the ship takes on water. But anyway, that aside, two gentlemen were patroning the Hardys at the same time I was, and so they got out their car. They got this car. It's all tagged up with, I really hate bumper stickers. I really do. Um, and that's just something I'll have to go into at another time. But I despise bumper stickers. They almost make me hate the person invariably, without knowing anything else about them. But these gentlemen had a car that was all decaled out with, I guess it was some gym that they were promoting. It was, they had some jujitsu, wrestling, the whole nine. And then I think they also, like, the other side had, like, CrossFit and all this other crap. So I'm like, okay. But the guy getting out of the car was fat. And I mean, if you're going to advertise a gym, and if you're going to spend that kind of money to decal a car and basically commit the car to the business, why why would you put the fat guy in it? I can't be the only one that thinks this. Why? That's that's you drive the ball all the way down the field, and you fumble on the 1 yard line. Like, why? So, all right. And this man, like, he wasn't. There's different kinds of fat. He was the worst kind of fat. He was like, okay, relaxed fit jeans. It's a style of jeans for the men who wear big ass jeans. And shout out to you. I'm a member of that fraternity. Uh, a member in good standing, might I add. Came in at a hearty 289 this morning. So you got relaxed fit, so that it gives when you push, gives you a little space to negotiate for men again who wear big ass jeans. This guy had a relaxed fit torso. His torso it was just hanging from him. It was just, I'm trying to think, because I've seen, different body types. Sometimes you see the person that gets like gastric and then their body just looks like, an empty bag. It wasn't quite like that, but it was in that spectrum. But anyway, I and don't get me wrong. It's the same discussion for um I don't blame that guy for wanting to drive that car. If that's even how it happened. And of course they came out there all swagged out. They had like, the pants branded, the shirt branded. There's no way in hell I would have given that man a shirt with my gym on it. And I feel the same way about Victoria's Secret selling King Kong size yoga pants. I'm not mad at the people for wanting to wear it. They should absolutely want to wear it, but they should only come in a handful of sizes. How bad do you want it? Anyway, today, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to focus on that man you see on the screen, LeBron James. And LeBron James, so what kind of brought this on? Like I said, this has been a long time coming. Because he is one of my least favorite people in the world, and I just don't understand. Well, let me not get ahead of myself. So, LeBron James once again placed his foot squarely in his mouth by there was the shooting that happened with that girl that was chasing the other girl with the knife. She had some terrible name. Um, well, she got shot down, and then after that, LeBron tweeted out accountability. You're next with the cop who shot the girl and saved the other girl's life, by the way. So then he caught some flack for that. He caught a lot of flack for that, actually. And I guess that's kind of what prompted this. Maybe it was his follow up tweet. But anyway, he ended up pulling the tweet. So that's how you know it was bad. And unfortunately, I was watching on on the Geeks and Gamers channel. Because that one guy, man, he hates LeBron James, and I just genuinely enjoy how much that man hates LeBron James. But anyway, they were showing the coverage even on Fox Sports 1. Like, ESPN was going to carry water for LeBron, right? Owned by Disney. Disney and China are buddies. So you knew those major networks were. I was curious about Fox because look, like I said, I've said in past episodes. I'll say again, I've unplugged at this point. I don't trust anything that comes from the mainstream media. So anyway, was watching Fox Sports One's coverage with Skip and Shannon, right? And first of all, I don't even know why they're on that network. But that just goes to show you where Fox, I mean, it's a business to them, so they'll sell to anybody. There's no loyalty factor there, and that's a conversation that I have with a lot of registered Republican friends. It's like you gotta stop thinking that Fox is in it with you. They're not. They'll sell you your side because we're an untapped market, but they're not in it with you. So anyhow, that aside, um, so LeBron stepped in it, and even on Fox Sports One, Skip and Shannon, they were carrying water for him. They said he apologized. The man never actually apologized, and it was just disgusting to see. But you know what? Fuck him. Anyway, so let's talk about LeBron James and where my discontentment comes from. Because it's not just a "fuck you, LeBron James" video. Although I'm not promising I will not utter those words in that sequence at some point in this. I'm not promising that won't happen. But I guess my issue with LeBron James is twofold. It's twofold. We'll attack the two both fronts because on both of the fronts that he's trying to create for himself, that I'm talking about that social activist front, and I'm also talking about obviously his profession, basketball. Those are the two areas where I have the biggest problem with him. So let's talk about the basketball end of it first. I grew up a basketball fan. It was a sport I played for most of my life. Certainly the sport I got the furthest with. And I started to check out a basketball probably around 2000, maybe about 2007, 6. I just got burnt out on it, and the rule changes where they were basically trying to, whittle down defense. It just completely turned me off. That and like as I've said before, the players look like children. When I watched, they look like men. They look like kids now. So I sorry. But then you add on all the other shit. Okay, well, I was gone already. This social justice stuff really did not affect me at all, other than it just locked the door behind me. But anyway, LeBron James comes in highly touted, and I remember all of this very well. Um, and I remember when he first came to the league, I didn't like him. Like, just straight out didn't like him. And that was because that was more of my contrarian nature, if I'm being fair. That was because, everybody was anointing him, and he was already called King James. He's 18 years old. And you just couldn't get away from it. It was LeBron James mania. So I tend to, and that's just about with everything. First thing that comes to mind is sitcoms. Usually when people talk up sitcoms, I don't watch them. So maybe there's a thing with me and expectation. I don't know what it is, but when something gets talked up to me, I immediately turn off of it. So anyway, but you watch the guy come up and really earn his lumps, pay his dues, and then what happened? Well, we all know the super team thing, and I like how a lot of people gloss over that, like, oh, it's no big deal. Well, and this kind of borders on another topic that I want to do at a different time, talking about how analytics has poisoned sports, and they're all slowly dying of this right now. Baseball probably going to be the first one pronounced dead from it, ironically enough. But anyway, there's this attitude that, like, it comes across to me as lazy. It comes across to me as I don't want to have to work hard to beat these people unless I'm guaranteed that if I work hard, I'll beat these people. Because when I grew up, that's what it was. Like, guys worked hard. They pretty much stayed at the same team their whole career. And understand, ownership is a big part of that. Understood, not contesting that point at all. But guys, they kind of just forged their own empires. Could Jordan have won more rings if he joined, or excuse me, Jordan won most of them. Could Patrick Ewing have won more rings if he joined Michael Jordan? Sure. Could Clyde Drexler have won more rings if he joined the Bulls? Yes. Could the Hornets have won a championship if, David Robinson came and played? Yes. But the point is, there was an understanding. There was like an unspoken etiquette, an unspoken honor amongst the competitors. There's an unspoken code amongst the men that no, We're going to endeavor to build our own dynasties and let the chips fall where they may. Let me fight you at your best. Let me fight them at their best. Yeah, Charles Barkley, he's a pain in the ass. But that doesn't mean I'm going to go team up with Karl Malone to beat him. No, 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 no. The Supersonics are going to stay here. Sean Kemp is going to stay here. Well, when he was good, he was with the Supersonics. So LeBron James comes along, and it's just like a person that he just wanted the cheat code. That's I think that's what it was. He game sharked the NBA. He hacked it, whatever you want to call it. He exploited an unspoken rule and broke it and formed a super team. And what do you know? They won. They should have won every year. Just because they didn't win the first year doesn't mean what he didn't break the NBA. Because then what happened after that? Well, then other people started doing their own. Of course. Why wouldn't they? You'd be a fool not to. It became an arms race of sorts for talent. And a lot of people like to bring in, no. The Celtics had the first super team with Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce and Ray Allen. Kevin Garnett was like 37. All of those guys were in the twilight of their career, with the exception of Paul Pierce. He was always in this weird, ambiguous area where he was always hot and always cold at the same time. But I like Paul Pierce. So anyway, and Paul Pierce had like one of those old man bodies. Like when you looked at him out there on the court, he just looked like somebody's dad. He did not look like he belonged out there. It's one of the things I loved about him. But anyway, LeBron James does the super team thing, which effectively kills the NBA as you know it in terms of guys forging their own empires. Now it's about, well, now I'm going to let me and my buddy versus you. It became NBA Street. 3-on-3. Me and my buddies versus you and your buddies. Great if you have however many teams there are. I can't think of how many teams there are in the NBA. If you have that many teams worth of talent. Or I'm sorry, if you have that many teams worth of star players, fine. Or if you have enough so that each one can have 3, fine. But you don't. So what does that do? Well, that makes a handful of teams really interesting to watch. That makes the overwhelming majority of the teams very boring and very bad. Tell you what else it does. Takes all of the interest out of the regular season. I've already got an idea of who's going to be in the finals, or at least in the playoffs. So I'll catch you then. Why am I going to watch you kick the shit out of the Knicks for the 6th time this year? So, again, LeBron James. You were the star. You were the marquee name. You were the king. And now you talk about the wokeness, and this gets into him as the activist. But now you get into this. And to put a fine point on the NBA side of him, well, we know what it's done to the NBA. The NBA just recently posted the lowest ratings it's ever had. Ever had. You know, they tried to manipulate the narrative of last season, saying, oh, no, the numbers went back up. And Geeks and Gamers also did a video on this as well, where they kind of broke down. No, it was manipulation. It was in how they set that point up verbally. It was about the words they chose, to where they weren't lying to you technically, but they were misleading you. Surprise, surprise, right? And the person who is the star, I don't care if it's the NFL. I mean, shit, let's do it. The NFL, Tom Brady, elevates the NFL. Some of the most interesting moments, plays, Super Bowls he's involved in happened in his era. Created a dynasty and now still doing his thing. Elevates the brand. Tiger Woods for golf. Say what you will about his personal life. Talk about Tiger on the green. When Tiger came onto the scene and first became, because really most of his spiral happened after, he was kind of not a star anymore. Which coincidentally then golf started to fall off in ratings. So when Tiger Mania was on, a lot of manias today. When Tiger Mania was on, elevated the sport. People watching it that didn't normally watch golf. And you go around, Michael Jordan with basketball. Gretzky in hockey. Don't know a lot, but I do know the name. And I do know that people were way more into hockey around that time. So that's what a star is supposed to do. That's what a prodigy is supposed to do. It's not just supposed to be everybody bask in my magnificence and tell me how fantastic I am and throw all of these superlatives on me. You got to kind of earn that. And LeBron James never did. Everywhere he went, there was chaos. Everywhere he went, there was dysfunction. If a woman breaks up with one guy, said he was crazy. Okay, break up with another guy. Oh yeah, he was abusive. Okay, break up with another guy. Yeah, he was crazy. At a certain point, we got to start looking inward. We got to start looking at you. Maybe you're the crazy one. Well, LeBron James has been on how many teams? And I mean teams as in rosters, not necessarily because, he was at Cleveland 2 different times. Well, I'm talking about the roster, starting roster that year. How many different ones has LeBron James been on? And how many of those ended in turmoil? More than Jordan. More than Iverson. More than Shaq and Kobe. So, moving on to now this other part's very easy. Him speaking as an intellectual. This is my problem. LeBron James, for all intents and purposes, is only famous because he can jump really high and play this game very well. That is it. So the notion that, and this is where my frustration comes from, because then you'll hear black people get mad at people like me, black people like me, who say, tell this dude to sit down and shut the fuck up. Because we actually had to be good at school. We actually had to graduate, some of us, we actually had to graduate. Then we actually had to go to this thing called college, some of us, where we had to learn more. So the point is, while you were dribbling the ball and making all the money, we were developing as adults, intellectually, mainly. So for you to then think that you can turn and pontificate to us on the finer points of freedom, of voter suppression, these are all air quotes, by the way, is laughable and insulting. Because you cannot string together A complete, coherent sentence free of any grammatical errors. You cannot. I have yet to hear this. One fucking sentence that spell check wouldn't light the fuck up. But somehow you think you can speak for an entire group of people. That thought is asinine. And then these are the same people that get mad when you're stereotyped. Well, which one is it? So you don't want to be stereotyped, but you want everyone who looks like you to think like you. Got it. So LeBron James, and this is the thing, if he were serious about being an activist or a getting into politics, look, I wouldn't be thrilled about it. Don't like it with my sports. Just don't. But I would not mind it. And I would go out on a limb and say most people who have a problem with it now wouldn't mind it. If he were serious about it. Because if he were serious about it, what would he do? He would actually do this crazy thing called research, where you get all of the factual information regarding the issue you're about to blather on about. You make sure all of your sources have been verified and are verifiable. You collect your thoughts. You present your argument in a stoic, emotionless manner that is lucid so people can understand the points you're making. And then you take counterpoints. And then you receive counter arguments. But what you don't do is look at the news, see a headline, pick up your phone, and tweet some stupid shit. That's what a person who's serious would not do. That's who someone who's actually trying to make a change, they would not do that. Because then that person, LeBron James, having that following that he has, inevitably will shape someone's mind to maybe do something stupid. Which brings me to my final point. And it was something I tweeted out yesterday. That is at Forever Hog for all of those endeavoring souls. But I was thinking, I said, LeBron James, his kids, because we talk all the time about the importance for fathers in the house and why most of these kids are fucked up because no daddy. But then I'm looking at his kids and I'm like, yeah, but LeBron's kids, I would not be surprised if they act and end up like a lot of these black kids that are raised by single moms. I would not be surprised. Why? Because their dad acts like a woman. He's very emotional. Everything is feel. Everything is we're the victim. Everything, it's a very weak and defeatist mentality. And that's what you are giving to your son. So, I can't imagine. Now look, predetermined, it's not predetermined, right? Parenting doesn't determine everything. I get that. But I'm just playing the numbers here. I think, and for him to produce children that end up in the way, and this is not me wishing this on them, this is just a hunch. Wouldn't matter if I wished it anyway. But they're going to do what they're going to do. But then that argument of the need for a strong male influence in the house, LeBron James becomes a blight on it. He becomes the case study for, see, you don't need a male in the house. Look at LeBron James' kids. like his buddy D Wade. And I thought, wow, here you have two things that LeBron James was a godsend to in the NBA and the argument for strong male influences in the lives of children. And he's going to leave both of them worse off than when he found them. LeBron James is an imbecile. LeBron James is a very good athlete. LeBron James is not an intelligent man. It's time to end this stupid charade. And, I saw there was a gag running around on the internet because, there was a phase where he just had books randomly for his interviews. He brings a book to the interview, huh? So just in case you get bored in between questions, going to knock out a few chapters. Okay. So, but someone noticed, and then it went around Twitter, that whenever you see him with a book, it's always like the first couple pages. The book's open to the first couple pages. And it's funny because as I was going through these pictures, there were pictures of him with books, and every one of them, and there were several different ones, every single one of them was him at the very beginning of the book. Almost like you just open it in front of a camera. Clay Travis posted an interview in which one of the reporters accidentally did their job and probed him because he was carrying around the autobiography of Malcolm X at that time. That was his fad at the time, and you can see where he's adopted the look, right? Even from his eyeglasses, the suit types, the way they fit. So he's trying to LARP as Malcolm X now. Okay, got it. Super woke. So the reporter asked him, I see you're reading your biography of Malcolm X. What's your biggest takeaway from that book? What ensued for the next 90 seconds, roughly, was the most frantic and pathetic attempt at assembling a word salad in Chinese fire drill fashion that I have ever seen in my motherfucking life. This motherfucker was just throwing words out into the atmosphere, hoping this reporter would just say, okay, got it. Well, first we'll say he's a smart man. He's very intelligent, and it's like we had to come together as a people, and we're strong when we come together as a people, and just to unite and fight for. He was babbling. It was like if a goddamn retired boxer who boxed for 30 years and never won a fight and just got punched in his fucking head every fight and somehow lived through it. It was like having that man deliver your goddamn graduation speech. Ooh, better yet, it was like Joe Biden. Just minus the stuttering. Just let him. So anyway, look. In closing, LeBron James, fuck you. You're, God, man. And that's the thing. If he was not doing damage, I wouldn't give a shit. But because he is doing active damage, I have to say something. It is amazing, though, that we're the only group of people. Where the least educated among us are elevated above the rest. They don't ask J.J. Watt to weigh in on corporate tax policy. They don't ask, Peyton Manning. They don't ask Steve Nash about the current outlook of the white race. But when we want to know what black people need in this election, who do we bring in? Cardi fucking B. Anyway, that's today's episode, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate you all tuning in as always. And yeah, until the next time, I just want to say it was a good show. Uh, we did some talking.